After all these years, you're kidding me.
I'm with John Baker, and it's 2019. I interviewed him previously, and basically the interview won't have changed much. So for people who watched it in 2019 can remember, he's still the same guy, and he's still a political person. Then he said, "I'm a political activist," which you are, aren't you, John?
Yes, I am, definitely. So nice to see you again, Mike, and I thoroughly enjoyed that interview last time. It's great fun and great to be here. The only difference is, I think, the beard. But,
yeah, I didn't recognise the beard.
Yeah,
I didn't recognise that. I mean, funny enough, people, senior people of our age, our sort of stuff, seem to be growing beards, and I wonder what it is. I don't know why it is.
I think it's a green thing. Somebody said to me the other day, because I'm involved in an environmental charity called Earth Project Jersey, and a few of us got together and we met a guy to talk about finance. And all of us Earth Project guys had beards. And he said, "Well, you green guys, you always grow beards. You all look the same." So yeah, it's just.
I used to have a beard when I was a young man, big full beard. It used to irritate me. It used to itch like hell. Anyway, we've got the regulation bookshelf behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all pretend books.
Yeah.
So that's significant in itself, I think.
I love books. I should say, I love books.
Yeah. What's the main impetus for your politics now? 2019, you had certain things. Is it changed?
It is. I think I'm actually more, if I say the word green, but with a capital G, that's absolutely where I am. So everything I do is about the environment. Now, if you look at, for instance, policy in the island generally is driven by the climate agenda, but the climate agenda is just one fairly significant part of a green agenda. Now, I'm not saying that Jersey needs, the Green Party a la UK or France, etc. But all this talk of political parties, what we really need is a lively and engaging Green Party, because there is absolutely nobody. I mean, even John Young. There's nobody in the States at the moment that's got a real green agenda and knows what looking after the environment is all about.
The strange thing is there have been in the past green.
There have been, yeah.
Under the green label, but
Yeah,
they were not very effective. I mean, Paul Stewart Sibley, for example, he went on and on about the pollution is down on where you live now, down that area.
Well, I can remember that significantly. That proposition for inquiry had purely scientific evidence, and it should have passed, and it failed. Only 18 votes in favour, and I'm pleased to say Simon Crowcroft voted for that. And the pollution under that area, which extends right across the whole of the waterfront, is going to be a major headache, and it has been a major headache.
I mean, obviously, when I was a youngster, I was in CND campaigning. I was arrested when I was 16, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And years ago, again, when Stewart Sibley was starting out, CND, the pollution from over in France, was a major thing.
Yeah, big thing.
But now we've embraced it. It's wonderful. It's nice, clean electricity. In fact, there's going to be pollution there for the next 10,000
blows
years.
up.
That's right.
Yeah, and something, Flamanville or whatever blows up and the pollution wafts our way, and then we'll all be going, "Oh my God, not that," Look, Jersey had an opportunity not so long ago to join France in this wind power that's happening at sea, in the Bay of St Malo. Poor quality politicians didn't engage properly with that. There was some public consultation, but it wasn't strong enough. If that happened now, we'd be jumping over ourselves to join that. And that connection, the power from those wind turbines, could have run the whole island. And they wouldn't have been able to cut us off, because it wouldn't have been their supply, it would have been our supply. So we have just missed the boat on a number of things, and we have got to look at renewable energy. We can't rely on France. If they change their mind about nuclear power, we'll be looking a bit silly, because we won't be using green energy.
Unfortunately, when the public get hold of these things, the technical elements are complicated. And the public, generally, the resentment, the resistance is usually, that'll look awful. It's usually at that level. If they're building a building, that's not built out of granite, that's awful. It isn't very substantial objection, generally. So when you're talking about propellers, big propellers, yes, they are big. But they are a means of producing electricity.
Yes, but this would be way out at sea. I mean, nobody in Jersey is going to even see them. Okay, the French fishermen would object, and there would be some environmentalists that say, "Oh, what about the seabirds?" And they are a problem. If the seabirds do fly into them, particularly at night, yes, that's a problem. But a seabird can fly into anything. It can fly into a cargo ship, the side of a building. I mean, I objected to the finance centre buildings because of the huge amount of glass that had no consideration for animals, for birds flying into the buildings. I mean, that's something that is taken on board. Skyscrapers in America, etc., have special glass, so there's no reflection for the birds to fly into.
Again, it was a big demonstration for Jersey about the finance centre, but
yes.
it wasn't about the elements of finance, which is what my objection would have been.
Well,
because obviously,
okay,
bit like the energy from nuclear power stations,
yeah.
the finance industry provides our wealth. And these things have got their other sides to them, haven't they?
Well, the other side of that, of course, is the amount of investment in fossil fuel. And we've got XR Jersey locally that really, to be fair, because of COVID, haven't made enough noise. But really what they should be doing, they should be demonstrating outside the finance centre and maybe some of the big banks and saying, why have you got not just billions but trillions of pounds invested in fossil fuel and in fossil fuel investigation, up at on the ice caps, etc., and in desert.
I noticed the Council of St Helier the other day recently. He occasionally refers to, he's got this, obviously a copy of this old report under his bed, about how the waterfront was going to generate £100 million for the regeneration of old St Helier. And of course that's all long forgotten, except that he remembers that.
Yeah, he remembers it, but the trouble is, with the great respect to Lee Henry, and he's doing good things now. I mean, the South Hill project is looking very green, but there's never been a steady income from that company. And sadly, the truth of the story is Webb were given all that waterfront land for nothing. They handed it over to SOJDC for nothing. So, for instance, when they built the finance centre, and Lee Henry claims that he's made £7 million profit on a sale of a £43 million leasehold, not freehold, because none of it's freehold, by the way. There's a reason for that. They don't know where the tide stops, so they don't know who owns the land. I'll just give you that little hint. So there's a big stink underneath all that, and that's why every single property on the waterfront is leasehold, 150 years, and not freehold, because no high tide, no freehold. Anyway, moving on. So
I went to see, by chance, I'd seen reference to the exhibition that was just done in the town hall.
Well, there's no money, you see. So that money, the £7 million,
appalling little
doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't represent the value of the land, even.
No.
So how is he able to say that he's made a real profit? I mean, I think Did
you look at that exhibition that was on in the town hall last week?
Yes. Well, I had the benefit of having looked at that a number of times because Lee kindly gave us a presentation. I've had some Zooms with him. We're getting a good relationship.
I mean, it needed explanation because maybe they had a big screen up there, maybe the full presentation.
Well, to be fair, they had people there during the day when they had the exhibition on. I think the time you had a look at it, there wasn't many people about.
There was nobody presenting. I don't think there was even anybody giving out leaflets or anything. But I just thought, and I did a little blog on it, or post on it, what an appalling standard of presentation.
It was, in terms of being able to read it and the engagement, to have pictures low down on the floor.
Absolutely, you got me. It was dreadful.
But getting back to your question, no, there has been no money to regenerate St Helier, and there's not likely to be. I'm doing a project through the Roads Committee to make some improvements to Rue de la Tow, and that is to change the speed limit from 30 to 20, put new zebra crossings in, new lighting, etc. That's going to cost us about £80,000, and we're looking to SOJDC for the contribution to the infrastructure for the area. And that's the money that will be coming from the Horizon project. But it's a mere £80,000. I mean, it's nothing.
One of the problems with the environmental lobbying at the moment, I'm getting old and I'm finding mobility is getting a problem with me.
Yeah.
And the cycling lobby has got they're sort of heretics. It's really so disregarding of disability. They're beginning to get the message. I've noticed.
No, I appreciate that, and there's some issues there. But I think, to be fair, the problem with cycling in Jersey is we have had 2, 3, in fact, not very efficient, not very go-getting infrastructure ministers, and I'm not going to name them. But St Helier's been waiting for over 20 years to get a proper cycling strategy and cycling routes, and I'm talking about safer cycling routes through St Helier. The idea of just continuing to allow cyclists to cycle along pavements in the central town is crazy. Well, they used to Sustrans
took an interest years ago. I don't even know if Sustrans still exist. But they had some awareness of disability, but
Yeah.
There's a with a cyclist.
Well,
we
there's
can whiz along.
always a conflict. And I mean, for instance, there was a programme on the television the other night about e-scooters.
Right.
And,
Oh, right,
and
I
that
missed
can
that
be a
one.
major problem,
Yeah.
particularly to the elderly and disabled. I know there was a case recently in that particular city that they were looking at where a chap was in a mobility scooter on a pavement. Somebody dropped an e-scooter on the pavement and he had to get out, try and pick it up, and he fell over, broke his hip, and unfortunately weeks later in hospital he died.
Really, yeah.
Now if that scooter hadn't been discarded in the middle of the pavement, he'd be living now. So they do, but that's a one-off case. And I think the problem is the younger generation see the opportunities for e-scooters, motorised skateboards, even unicycles, and they are illegal. But what are the police? What does Kevin Lewis do about it? And what does the parish and the rest of us do?
They don't want to touch it, do they?
We should allow them, but we should separate them from pedestrians.
Right.
And as long as our streets are clogged up with cars and cars parked, because everybody wants their car outside their house, and they want to drive their car to the local shop, which is only 5 minutes away, or they want to drive their car to the school, which is 10 minutes away, instead of getting their kids to walk or cycle. If we had safer walking and cycling routes, the kids could walk, they could cycle, and they'd be healthy. The parents wouldn't need a great big 4x4, as well as their little city car or whatever.
Well, Broad Street has somewhat focused attention on these various issues.
Yeah, but that's been so badly handled.
Yeah, of course.
So
it is.
badly.
But that's how all these that's the traditional way of
Yeah.
handling them badly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
traditional.
yeah. Now, in the UK, if they did that before they even thought of closing it, there would be community consultation. When you take something, you give something back. So what they should have done, they said, right, you let us close Broad Street, we're going to green the street, we're going to put tables there, we're going to allow disabled to be accessible, we're going to allow not these big buses, pushing fumes out. We're going to get some little electric hopper buses. We're going to create a network of hopper buses around the town. We'll start to design a system up to the new hospital with 12-seater smaller hopper buses. We can save the 40 million that we're going to spend on the Westmount access. Don't spend that money. Just get some smaller buses.
Well, yeah, but unfortunately, the current speak I get from the bus company is that they're committed to diesel because they can't afford to go electric. They can't afford it.
Well, maybe the government needs to intervene.
Well, they are, but they, you know.
I mean, we've got a situation where, for instance, the JEC are partly owned by government, and yet, where are they when it comes to expanding the Green Initiative? When EV turn around to them and say, look, we want to park these cars here, could we have some electrical charging points? Oh, no, that's not going to make us any money. No, we're not interested. The government needs to say, we need these green initiatives.
I can't even get the bus company to put timetables up in the Snow Hill bus shelter. They say it's granite, we can't fix the granite, and such similar stupid. This is the sort of nonsense they come out with. Now I go down every now and again. I pop it and I get, we'll look at it, and obviously got no intention of doing anything about it.
I think part of the problem is people don't talk to each other. I mean, Rob Ward, for instance, comes out with some great initiatives, but when he tried to get moving with 3 buses, who did he not talk to? He didn't talk to the bus company. Who did he not talk to? He didn't talk to Susie Pinnell about how it's going to be afforded. All he did was put a proposition to say, let's have 3 buses. Typical socialist. Something for nothing.
Well,
and who's going to pay for it?
noticed that rather unfortunate strain in your when you write things. There's a sort of anti-socialist thing because you're a businessman.
Well, no, I don't think I'm more left-wing than right-wing, and certainly centre ground. I mean, I know that there are moves for new political parties, and we need a balance. I noticed a former, I might as well name him, Philip Balash, I believe, I could be wrong, so allegedly forming a new political party. But my God, that's going to be so right-wing. And we've got Steve Pallett and his mates, and I think they're rather right wing.
Well, obviously,
all we've got is reform. So what we need, getting back to the green thing, we need a green initiative.
We do,
and that could be more.
And there's enough environmentalist so-called people to make a super big green party. Why won't they work together? They were criticised the last time I stood. They were criticising, why didn't I have a green? I said, well, you're the Greens. Why haven't you got a candidate?
Well, this time it's May. We've got a year. There's people talking out there.
Is there?
You never know. We may surprise you.
But they've got to start now. They've got to let the public know this is our agenda.
I think what you need to do, you need to get on board. And if anybody's out there listening, my email is johnbakerjersey@gmail.com. Get in touch, and if you're interested in getting a Green Party going, I'm not saying I'm going to lead the charge, but we can at least get the conversation going. Because there's as you say, there's lots of people out there Post-COVID, everybody's appreciating what a lovely green world it could be. The biodiversity of the island needs to be protected. The New Island Plan is significantly about protecting the environment.
It is, but so have the previous ones been.
Well, yeah, but I think we've got a lot more public interest in that now. And when you look at, for instance, the new South Hill development, going back to Lee Henry, very green. You've got biophilic design in the buildings. You've got gardens around the buildings. You've got improvements to the local fauna and flora, extra trees. They're going to improve the playground, make things safer for cycling and walking. So it's all really positive.
In 2019, we discussed what's the state's going to happen. When we were absolutely spot on, we deduced with our great brain power that the senators were going,
yes,
and the constables were staying,
yeah,
and there would be a rearrangement of deputies.
Well, yeah,
now that
yeah.
is, but you've got another dimension because you're very parish oriented.
Oh yes, even more so than the last time we spoke, because the parish council is starting to gain ground now. It's been slowed down by COVID, but I'm lucky enough to have been elected as chairman of the Parish Council Environment Committee, and we've got a great agenda. And one of the most significant parts of that agenda is to make St Helier a garden city with all that encompasses. But that's the modern version of a garden city, not the old-fashioned Llewellyn garden city.
No, I remember Mr. Constable Crowcock was very keen on having St Helier labelled as a city some years ago.
That's a bit of conflict. You can't call it a garden town. The garden city movement is the garden city movement. And it's happening all over the world, I have to say. And it's retrospective garden city. So, for instance, in Paris, the Champs-Élysées is now 4 lanes of traffic instead of 8. And those 4 lanes that have disappeared are now benches, trees, and people are flooding there because it's,
I wonder if it works.
Yeah, it's definitely working. And up and down the UK, every city and town, they're getting rid of cars in the city centre. It takes 2 years. I've done the research. And the important thing is you don't take away, you give back. So you give people better public transport, and you give them greening, you give them little benches. So you can imagine, you come out at the moment, you come out in the street and there's a row of cars, and the cars driving past, pollution everywhere. 2 years' time, you come out in the street and there's a couple of EV cars, there's a row of EV bikes, there's parking for bikes, there's benches, and there's little play areas for the kids, and it's safe. What a wonderful world.
Yes.
Walk this way, come with me.
Is it Walt Disney or is it reality?
No, it's happening all over the place.
Okay.
You've got low traffic neighbourhoods in the UK now, where you've got a street that's, people complain, oh, it's a rat run, people zoom through at whatever speed. No, okay, we'll stop it being a rat run, and we'll make it a low traffic neighbourhood.
You see, I'm much criticised for everything I do, but certainly getting rid of the constables. I don't want to get rid of the constables, absolutely. I want them to go back to their parishes and turn their parishes into something really worthwhile. That's what I want. I don't think they should be in the States. As we know, the order I go in, if they want to stand, want to stand as a deputy and be a constable as well, that's up to them.
Okay.
But generally speaking, and when you're involved in the parishes, you talk about a council, this is the sort of engagement which I see happening in Guernsey since they had their revised election system.
Yeah.
That's what's happening from a distance. That's what seems to be happening. The parishes are becoming much more active. And I think that's what Jersey needs to do.
It absolutely is. I wouldn't be against the constable not being in the States, provided they actually created much more access for the community and made the parish hall much more accessible and more sort of information centres. I think that's going to happen to some extent with this health in the community, care in the community thing, which not everybody agrees to. There's some issues for it. But if your parish hall is used a lot more, I mean, if you walk up, I don't know, St John's now and knocked on the door and said, can I just look at you? Nobody there. It's not being used. It should be used every day. It should be a community centre. Now, getting back to the constable thing, what you need is to say, right, you're elected as constable. Obviously, I think, if you've got a full-time job, you need some sort of income. So I'm not saying that they would have the same 40, 50,000.
Well, it should be on a pro-rata basis with the size of the parish. That's what I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps that is the case. But the important thing is that they have connection and engagement with the deputies, so they have representation in the states. So if the constable is communicating better with the people in that community, in that parish, they need to have much more regular meetings with their deputies, as happens in St Helier. But not all deputies in St Helier are quite as communicative as others. I don't know what happens in other parishes. Obviously, some parishes like St Peter's have only got one deputy anyway. But I know certainly, we're referring to Roland Hewlin in St Peter's, he has a good relationship with his constable, and they do have evenings where they invite people along
Where do you see in the next few years John Baker fitting into the parish system?
Well, I love the way that things are happening with the council. I really love my role that I've currently got. I mean, obviously, it's got to have a rubber stamp to move things forward if and when the council is approved by the parish assemblies, it will have to be, and then approved by the states. I think if that happens, that's great, because we've also, I think, and I'm putting words in his mouth, but Mike Jackson might be interested in a parish council for St Brelade's, because that's the next biggest parish. And if it's proved to be a useful tool, then a parish council for St Brelade's could be something that could happen in 5 years' time.
If they had a parish council at St John, maybe they wouldn't have got themselves into the...
Oh, you're so right, absolutely. I mean, I would say, and I've worked in St John's, and I'm sorry to say it's a rotten borough. It's had its problems, and I'm not naming any names, but let's move on.
It seems to be traditional for St John to have problems.
I'm sorry, yeah, it is. Sadly.
It is weird.
But then perhaps there are problems in other parishes that haven't come to the surface, so, who knows.
Well, historically there have been. I can remember various... And I never took much notice of parish
I think I'm going to prejudge your question. So you're asking about, John Baker's political future. I'm very much embedded in St Helier and want to make things happen in St Helier, the Garden City thing. But at the same time, if there was, I see a need for a Green Party, and I think that's also very important. It wouldn't necessarily mean that I would stand for the states, but I'd be very happy to help form a Green Party and even run the damn thing. I think a Green Party would need, however, somebody that would align to the Green Party's initiatives in every single district that was getting a vote. Now, when I say a Green Party, I don't necessarily mean a party in a box. I would actually call it a Green Alliance. Right. And a bit like in Guernsey, you can actually join more than one party. Right. A Green Alliance could have some certain policies that somebody in another party could sign up to. So hence the name Green Alliance. I think that's where the direction of what I'm thinking is going.
With the parish system, if there were more independent parishes or dealing with things more so, a wide range of things, and they already meet once a month.
You mean if the parishes were more independent?
Yeah, from the states.
Yeah,
and they had a set of things which they do themselves. Yeah. Beyond emptying the rubbish bins, a bit beyond that, a bit more.
Yeah, everybody thinks that I paid the rates to empty the rubbish. Oh my God!
Because that raises another thing. How will they fund? Because obviously St Helier for years and years and years it's carried a big burden on costs.
I can tell you, I can't announce them, but in my Garden City project, not only have I got some initiatives, and the point is they're going to cost money, and I've got cards on the table to Simon and Jason, the chief exec. I've given them 6 different types of reliable income sources that could be put into a ring-fence fund for all the green initiatives that I want to do. And there's more than enough money. I mean, we're talking millions of pounds of annual income that we could get. A lot of it from transport, car parking, that sort of thing. But, not something that's going to be penalising Middle Jersey. It's not a vote loser, it's a vote winner.
The other aspect, of course, is this. We got an election for the states coming up next May, June.
Yeah, May. Yeah.
If you're going to do radical changes in the parish structures, which I think is absolutely necessary,
absolutely,
somebody's got to propose those in the states.
Yes.
Now, if people like you are trying to reform the parishes at parish level, who's going to be raising the issues in the states? Because this has got to be planned ahead.
Okay, but it's got to be it could be the Green Party, it could be the backbenchers. It's got to be somebody with an interest, in a result. And one of the things I try and work towards more is community involvement, because not only am I embedded in the parish in terms of its parish council, I'm on the roads committee, I'm on the accounts committee, etc. I've worked for the parish for 30 years. Okay. Yeah, but not paid. I have to add, I'm always honorary, and I know the parish very well. I've obviously being a Jersey boy, and I've lived in St Helier, not all my life, but most of my life. I've lived in St John's briefly, but anyway, let's not talk about John. So I think it's got to be that's got to be something that comes from a backbencher. It comes from a political party. It can't come from the constables, obviously, and it's got to bring the people with it. You have to have a concept that the people are behind, because otherwise, it ain't going to happen.
Well, so I worry about the time scale for it to happen, because
it's a long journey.
Another one of these is going to drag on.
No, it's a long job. It ain't going to happen this next few months.
No.
I think you could start planning now, and it could be an initiative that you could build into a political party. And what you do, you have to say, carrot and stick. okay, move the parish system on, but don't deplete it, actually strengthen it. And if you have that as part of your agenda or your manifesto even, then people say, well, that's a good idea, I'll vote for that bloke. And then once you get in, you've got a manifesto, so you're supposed to do it.
The parish party.
Yeah, the parish party. Yeah, well, that's not impossible. Yeah.
Well, I would, without knowing what the fun, I would welcome that. I mean,
I think a lot of people would, because if they are concerned about the constables being chucked out the states and they're anti,
exactly,
they'll look at the benefit,
absolutely,
the huge benefits. Yeah.
I think on that optimistic note,
Oh, thank you.
we will cease today's discussion.
Okay.
And in 3 years' time, we shall have another one.
Okay, that'd be great. And I hope we got a wonderful world.
Cheers.